Hello and welcome everyone to today's SAP Community Call on Automate and Extend Your Business Processes with SAP Workflow Management. I'm Svea Becker, I'm your host for today, and of course I have great speakers with me here today. Both are very well known and very good and very high contributor in the SAP community, and they have a lot of experience with SAP Workflow Management for many, many years. It's Stephan and Venu. Welcome both. It's great to have you on board here today. And I would like to hand over to you, and then you can start your presentation.
Thanks a lot, Svea, for a nice introduction. And of course, also thanks a lot for having us again here in the SAP community. So I think the last time we presented, I guess it was around November, December timeframe. But of course, since then, some new developments have happened. And as you probably know, SAP Workflow Management is also topic of the month in March in the SAP community. So this was really also a good reason for us to come back to the SAP community and present some news, some highlights, and also where we are heading today. So with me, I have my colleague Venu, and today we would like to give you a kind of an introduction, of course, to set the scene where you would probably also see workflow management when we are talking about the bigger picture of the SAP offerings. Then, of course, I will give you an introduction into workflow management itself. We have again a demo for you. And then we also would like to focus on the topic of live process content packages, because this is becoming more and more important for us, but of course also for our customers and partners of you, for our community around workflow management. This will be accompanied with some customer examples, and then we are coming to the summary and hopefully also then to a lively discussion in the Q&A area. Having said this, when we take a look at the intelligent enterprise, I mean, of course, it's about applications, it's about technology, it's about having the right infrastructure in place. But of course, it's for most to cater around the business network. So to get in contact with customers, with suppliers. And I think to build up this connection, we have seen this also over the course of the last 12 months, is more and more important. And of course, to vitalize these connections, also these business connections, there needs to be some supporting technology, which is then nicely covered within SAP Business Technology Platform. And then, of course, also brought to you, for example, in different applications in the Intelligence Suite or also in the Industry Cloud. Over all of them, when we're talking about business networks, it's also about business processes. So how are things working? How are people working together? How are certain elements also transported, for example, from one organization to the other? And these business processes are, of course, running across different functions. You will find them also in all functions. And then it's essential to get some intelligence into these business processes, to get some insights into the processes, to know what's going on, but also then be able to improve these business processes moving forward. And for the improvement part, of course, there are different areas how you could improve a business process. So just think about a scenario where you would need to unblock an order. Probably the improvement could just be that you go into the system, into the Intelligence Suite, and push a button to unblock an order. Could also happen that unblocking an order is a kind of a mundane, repetitive task, and probably therefore you would like to use kind of a digital bot, a digital worker with an intelligent robotic process automation. Or probably the unblocking of an order requires several approvals. So you actually would like to extend the original process, and therefore you would make use, for example, for SAP Workflow Management. So you can see improvement of processes have different phases, different flavors, if you will. And good news to you, we are catering for all these different flavors and are also providing the right technology and solution for you. When we're talking about business processes, already mentioned they're running across different functions, including different systems, including different stakeholders, like, for example, the bigger scenarios like lead to cash, recruit to retire, design to operate, or also source to pay. But when we're talking about process automation, I guess we all know that's not everything. So of course there are these, let's say, standard business processes, which are most likely covering around 80% of all the activities. But there are also these non-standard workflows where you probably need to create a workflow for your own because you have dedicated business requirements, or you would like to extend a standard business processes. And actually, this is where SAP Workflow Management then comes into the game to really go with you the last mile of automation and digitize your workflows really end to end. When we are talking about workflows and the overlaying business processes, of course, processes run the world, we would say. I mean, of course, Venu myself would say this because we are in this area for quite a long time. But we still see that processes today are complex. And this is not a bad thing in general. I mean, the world is complex, and then also probably business processes can be complex. But the question is, how are we capable to handle this complexity? And I think, yeah, we are providing the right answer also to you. And in addition, also sometimes it's even necessary to hide the complexity before the business user, before the end user, and really focus on what is important to have a good result at the end. On the other hand, what we still experience, and I think we already experienced also during the course of the last few months, that still processes or sometimes even parts of processes are way too manual. So there can be issues coming up. There could happen that you cannot really work on these processes anymore. You really need also to fix these broken processes. And of course, these issues then also sum up to some kind of errors, inefficiencies, and costs. And this we need to avoid, and this we also will avoid with our solutions here. Focusing on the current situation, and this is from even last year, so where we also saw it become more and more important to restore sometimes broken business processes, to also come to a next level of process automation, if you will, also in combination with different types of technologies, because process automation is not either or, it's rather often a combination. And a combination could look like, for example, that on the one hand side, you're doing automation of tasks which are repetitive, which are mundane, which you would like, yeah, sometimes you are acting like a robot, then let's do it a bot here with intelligent RPA. And on the other hand, let's say the other side of the same automation coin, use workflow management to really create end-to-end workflows and really be able to automate then also the last mile finally. Today, we would like to focus, of course, on SAP Workflow Management in this session, as said before. And just to give you an introduction, what are the kind of key capabilities, so what you can use and what you can also achieve with SAP Workflow Management. First and foremost, and the name already says it, we have the workflow engine underneath, the workflow service, the workflow editor, a low-code environment based on modeling standard BPM N 2.0 business process model and notation. So this is a really nice environment which can be used on the one hand side to define the workflows, but also this is the area where you probably would also then design your user interfaces, connect them, also connect to different systems, and really be able to have an end-to-end workflow up and running and also executed at the end. When we're talking about workflows, often there's, of course, the need for decisions, or some regulations are coming in, some guidelines from a company. And also this needs to be reflected. Probably not directly in the implementation of the workflow, because just imagine you would need to change there any policy, then you would need to touch the complete workflow implementation again. No, better would be really to keep this application logic independent of the business logic, and therefore we are using the business rule service, also low-code environment, which you can use to define business rules, for example, with the help of decisions tables or if else rules. We will also show this later in the demo. Then one very fascinating item here, capability, which we brought to market actually mid of last year, is the process variant editor. So a completely no-code environment where we are really focusing on the business process expert, on the business technologists. So the ones who have kind of an small understanding of technology, but really focus and have the full knowledge, the full power about our business processes. And what we are striving here for is to enable them to create business process variants on their own. This could be done, for example, based on pre-built content on predefined processes, which we are delivering via our live process content packages. But this could also be, for example, based on processes which you as a customer has created on your own, and then provide them as templates to your business process experts, where they are then able to create their own variants. And last but not least, of course, once the processes are up and running, you also would like to have some kind of insurance that these are running against your KPIs, that you can measure performance, that you can do some kind of correlation, of calculation, and so on and so forth. And this we are providing here with the process visibility dashboard, where you can really make use of all the information which is coming from the underlying system and providing in a meaningful, in a beneficial way to your end user. So all in all, workflow management really combined coherent cloud offering, including capabilities for workflow, for business rules, process visibility, flexibility with the variant editor, and of course also with an inbox where then the task can be consumed. And this is accompanied by our process live process content packages, which you will find in the API Business Hub. And there you can discover them, you can import them then within the process flexibility cockpit, configure, as I said before, your own variants, also include business rules and decisions, visibility models, and so on and so forth, and then activate and deploy these new process variants in your environment. And this is one of our focus areas. And before we come to what's coming next, I think now it's the perfect time to switch over to Venu, who will guide you through a demo, also showing the tooling of workflow management, but also showing you how you could really use live process content packages within your projects and really use them as accelerators for your process automation activities. Having said this, I'm stop sharing my screen, and Venu, the stage is yours.
Stephan, please confirm you're able to see my desktop.
Yes, it's clear.
All right. So thanks, Stephan, for the nice intro. And let me take you through from our content towards our tooling, and how you could create processes, or how you could automate business processes using our service offering. So what you see here, SAP API Business Hub, it's pretty familiar to all of us. But as also you know that API Business Hub provide content, different types of content in terms of integration content, LOB APIs, events, or CDS views. Plus you can see workflow management. This is a new content type what we started delivering from end of Q2 last year. And then we started the journey of providing content rather than only providing a set of capabilities under workflow management service, where you as a customer or a partner need to start from scratch. So that's no more the case, where you can see there are different type of content. Some of them are like production ready content with a few set of configurations you are able to consume them, or sometime it could be accelerated content where you can adopt the content by making certain modifications, or it could be a sample content where you can have some sort of a reference, like as a developer, as a partner, you are able to refer the implementation, and then you can also, this would simplify the time taken, or the adoption, or sorry, the development time for building a capability. So overall, you can see there are different type of content packages across industries, across LOB applications, and each of the content packages, it's not only few set of descriptions around it, whether it is a capital expenditure approval, or whether you manage your invoices without purchase order in the sourcing and procurement side, maintain your purchase info record, or a similar content package with the purchase requisition approval and release. So you can see it is touching upon different aspect of procurement. And even you can see how do you get the transparency into the P2O side of Ariba, that is procure to order. So this kind of different content packages are available. And of course, you can directly go to API Business Hub and go through this different content, see what are the artifacts which are delivered. Even you can further, deep dive into this content where you can quickly log on to API Business Hub and see, okay, what exactly specific process content behind it, or what is the corresponding decisions we have provided, or what is the underlying visibility content we are providing as part of a purchase requisition and approval. So that is, and together with that, you can see there is also the setup guide, the end user guide, and as a process expert or a BPX, the configuration guide also provided. And of course, this is a content based on ECC. So naturally, you might be already thinking, okay, how do I integrate between our business technology platform or workflow management to my ECC system? Do I need to spend additional effort to build the integration content? No. You can see we also provide the related integration content as part of this use case, where you are also able to see the related integration content as part of the scenario. Now, let me go back to our tooling and show you how you as a customer would be, or a partner would be able to consume this content. So what you see here is a view of our Fiori Launchpad, where we provide a standard Fiori Launchpad as part of our service offering, which include all the different applications which are coming out of the box, and you as a customer or a partner do not need to do any additional integration effort in order to access this. If you go to your business technology platform Cockpit, subscribe workflow management with a single click, and then you assign the required roles, or you even subscribe using our booster. That means it includes everything for you. You do not need to even assign the roles, and your launchpad is ready for consumption. So that's the standard Fiori launchpad with the different applications what we provide out of the box, which include business user specific tooling, development tools, and monitoring tools, which are all coming out of the box. And now from a content perspective, as a process expert or a BPX, I go to my process flexibility cockpit. I could also see, I can search and find, different content packages through the process hub. So you can see this is kind of a enterprise view of API Business Hub, where again, I can go to the different content packages, you can see what exactly it is delivered. You can also see the related guides where you are, import the content and then configure the content and deploy the content. So today I would like to take you through one concrete scenario, which is a purchase requisition approval and release, because the purchase requisition, or in general, procurement is like a bread and butter use case for everybody. Everyone can pretty easily understand. And once you import the content, you are able to go to your process flexibility cockpit, where you can see you are able to create different variants of purchasing based on a standard template we deliver. So here you can see now I have the possibility of creating a new variant based on a given template what we deliver. And once you create a new variant, because from a purchasing perspective, if you look at, of course, it's a standard process, but you are procuring semi-finished goods, could be finished goods, could be high value procurement, or it could be services. So there are different types of procurement, and you cannot run this process using the same approval workflow. You definitely need different variants of this workflow. Depends on certain type of materials, certain type of suppliers, based on the value, or even depends on your region or your country. So how can I quickly enable to do approval workflow, or enhance my approval workflow by adding additional approval step based on the standard content we deliver? So you can see here, after the standard approval line item, or you could also say that, okay, the cost center owner is doing the approval here, followed by my global procurement officer. So this is a two-step approval process which I configure. And of course, you can say, oh, I do not need a validation of my line item. You can remove it, because that is an optional step where it enables you to validate every line item as part of a purchase requisition. For example, whether you have provided the preferred vendor, or whether the tax code is there, or the payment term is available. So these are the aspects which you could validate. And if the validation fails, naturally the task or the approval task would go back to the buyer or the requester, so that the requester can change the requisition and then submit it again. Or you believe, so that actually enables some sort of automation, where if you do not have a validation, naturally what's going to happen is you release the line item, and when it goes for a purchase order creation, maybe there you have a failure and you need to go back to the requester, and then that is a manual process where you need to correct the line item accordingly. So this really provide you a complete automation where you can see finally you release the line item, where then the purchase order for the corresponding line item can be created. So you can see now pretty easily using a kind of a low-code approach, where a process owner or a process expert, or in this case a procurement expert, able to configure or change the different process variants as part of a purchase requisition. So if you look at from a workflow perspective, it is not only certain process variants you are operating in your landscape. We can see there are quite lots of variants where you are also, from a governance perspective, see all the different process variants in your landscape. Together with, we also provide decisions. So you can see there are different decisions as part of a workflow application, because whether it is in ECC or in S4, you hear about the BRF Plus or the business rules management in our process orchestration. Similarly, we have a business rule or a decision management capability part of workflow management. So that enable again you to configure or gain flexibility around the decisions actually. So without much support from the IT side of the house, how can I flexibly configure my decisions? You can see the the policies here, the decision diagrams here, where you can quickly go to the respective decisions, and then you modify your decisions, where you can quickly edit your decisions and think about, like especially in this kind of a COVID situations, where every company is also trying to adjust the procurement, tightening the cost, etc. You can easily define, okay, based on my requisition date, based on my value of my purchasing, based on my purchasing organization or your company code or a plant. So different attributes, based on that you decide, okay, what is the right variant I need to enable for procurement. Right. So that's where quickly you are adopting changes with the minimal configuration using our decision management. Similarly, you could also think about, oh, I also want to dynamically determine my approvers, or you could also think about determining your approvers from a remote system. So think about if you want to decide your approvers or determine your approvers based on certain conditions outside of your core process, so that tomorrow there are policy changes happening, decisions changes are happening. How do you incorporate those decisions without much delay, and also without much support from the IT side? So you can see now again, based on the different attributes of your purchasing or the line item, you are able to configure the appropriate user group, and correspondingly you could also say what is the duration for this task you assign, and whether you need to enable an auto approval. So that's where you are able to quickly manage your decisions. And then you can see there are different policies you can configure as part of our decision management. And then naturally you need to think about, okay, if I have my decisions, I have automation, okay, but naturally you need to know how is this process area functioning as of today. So here you get an aggregated view of all these different process variants which are in active state, which are executing in your business technology platform account. But you also need to get an insight, how is this process area functioning, how many of my requisitions are completing on time, so that there is a possibility that the goods are delivered and the buyer is receiving the required line item on time. So that's why process visibility giving you a real-time insight into a specific process area. So as a process expert, as a process owner, I'm able to navigate into process visibility, my process visibility workspace, and it gives me insight how is the process area functioning, where you can see there are quite lots of performance indicators, which from a operational perspective, you are able to understand, okay, how many of them are critical. That means those requisitions or approval workflows are exceeded the promised delivery date. But some of them are at risk. That means 70 to 80% of the time is already elapsed. There is a fair chance that they also be critical soon. And on track means, yes, they are doing well, no need to worry about it. Similarly, you can see this 175 line items currently in process has grouped into different phases of your process, which consist of you releasing your line item, you approve your line item, you validate your line item, whether it's a cost center owner approval, whether it's a GPU approval. So like that, we are grouping these different line items into different clusters, and you are able to get a view, okay, how they are doing it. Plus, you can see there is interesting performance indicators like, how many, purchase requisition line items are there, how many of them got released over a period of time, the value of purchasing, okay, based on a supplier, maybe you can aggregate the total volume of purchasing, right? So there are different ways you can slice and dice your data, and you are able to get a complete view on purchasing. Plus, you could also see what is the approximate time taken by the different type of purchasing, right? For example, you can see here compared to the approval for a high value time or investment or a purchasing taking much more time compared to the rest of the buying. So if you really want to get an insight about it, you are allowed to, you can really do a deep dive, which just means you are going into a instances view, and then you can see there is only certain purchasing where it is taking more time. So you're really able to see different insights into all these different approval workflows which are there currently in your system. Plus, you could also navigate to the respective instances by a single click, where you can see now I have a spike in purchasing on a specific date. Okay, let me navigate into those cases and see, okay, what's really happening on that specific day. And then it also allows you to deep dive into the line items, and it's not only going into your line items, but also you also able to go to the individual instances, and you can see, okay, this requisition is already cancelled, and you could also see the status here, why it is cancelled, because it was in approval for a longer period of time and then it got cancelled. And of course, you could also see, if there is any specific action has taken, or otherwise, sometime, for example, if there is a delay, then you need to notify the respective process operators, and correspondingly you need to send some actions so that people would be able to respond to that. So each and every KPI what you see here, you are able to do a deep dive into that. Like, if I have 4 instances which are under risk, then you are able to navigate the 4 instances and see, okay, what's really happening, why they are getting delayed. Then you can go to the details of this instance, and you can see some actions now here, right? So because since the workflow is exceeded the threshold, so there is a threshold violation, naturally enabling you to do some actions like, do you really want to restart the approval process? Do you want to release the line item, or do you want to delete the line item? Similarly, from an action log, you can see it's also notifying the process administrator as and when it exceeded the line. You can see there was a March 10th, you started the workflow. After 7 days, it is exceeded, getting into threshold violation. Immediately it is sending a notification and informing the respective people, look, there are certain purchase requisition approvals already in risk status, right? So you can see the insight to action from a process perspective, where the system able to detect problems and notify respective business users, so that you don't need to sit in front of such a visibility dashboard 24/7 and look at, okay, what's really happening. Good. So together with that, I just want to show you the related visibility scenario. So the visibility scenario enable you to modify or create net new process visibility scenario. It is not only meant for workflow management, but also for other process areas where you can import your workflows from a business technology platform. You could also import a business workflow from your ECC system. And of course, you could also use other third-party processes as an observed process, or even import a Qualtrics survey into process visibility. And of course, together with it shows you the related context attribute, the transactional events, and you also could define different sort of actions. That's what I showed you, the notifying the process administrator based on certain conditions. Similarly, the restarting, deleting, and the releasing of the line item. And then you could also configure performance indicators based on your need, like, okay, the total purchasing value of based on a specific purchasing organization. And you can see, oh, I want to represent this using a donut chart or based on a line chart on a monthly basis. And then you could also apply the corresponding measure, which is the price of the item, and the dimension here, of course, because it's based on purchasing organization, and you configure it accordingly. And of course, you can also add additional filters based on different attributes. Like, for example, if you really want to say, okay, for a given plant or for a given purchasing organization, I really want to further slice and dice my data, you could apply additional filters to this uh, performance indicator. So you can see now it is pretty easy for you to configure the performance indicators, and also you are able to apply different filters or different representation with a few clicks, which enable you to adapt changes, right? Gain visibility, that's one side of the the one part of it. But on the other side, time to time you are able to make changes without much investment or much support from the IT side. So as a process expert, I have one view of my process, about my different process variants, my decisions, and my process visibility scenario. And of course, now if you look at, okay, from a business user perspective, how are these workflows are executed, I think we also provide the corresponding inbox. So let me just go to my inbox and show you how business users are able to consume these different applications. So give me a minute. So now, so far what I showed you, okay, how you are able to build such applications or configure such applications, manage the decisions and the visibility scenario. And think about from a business user perspective, you have our launchpad where we have integrated all the different applications here, and together with our inbox application. So if you think about, okay, I really want to create a purchase requisition. So naturally I would be able to create uh, you know the purchase requisition directly from our Fiori launchpad here. Or of course you can also go to the corresponding application, which is the the above transactions, and create a purchase requisition. But you could configure the approvals in business technology platform, where you can see we are providing a standard purchase requisition approval UI here, which enable you to create the requisition directly from our workflow management, which is coming out of the box. So interestingly, you can see now it's a pretty simple UI where you do a simple material search. For example, if I search for a material, I would be able to search and find material. So it is not what's happening behind the scene is it's go and search for a material from ECC, and it get the details. So you can see the corresponding plants populated. You provide the quantity, the price is automatically populated, unit of measure, currency, everything is populated. You provide a delivery date, and you select on, you provide a specific purchasing organization. So as you know, this is pretty simple view of the standard MM51 transactions, where you are entering quite lots of data while creating a line item. But on the other hand, you are providing a native Fiori-based experience to the business users, where you are able to provide the desired vendor. And then, okay, of course, as a requester, I just need to provide my details here. And then let me just provide an email ID, so that as a requester, it would be notifying me. And then you add to the cart. So you can add multiple line items. And once you finish the adding all the line items, you say order. So what is happening behind the scene, you can see now there is a requisition got created. So it is creating a purchase requisition in the ECC system. At the same time, it has created an approval workflow in business technology platform or in workflow management, where I, as a business user, if I am the approver, I would be able to go and claim the task. But at the same time, it is also performing different validation steps, and post validation, if everything looks good, then it is coming back to me and then say, okay, there is an approval. So since I have also configured me as a user, you can see the approvals are already on my inbox. So whatever I have requested as a request, you can see my name is there, my line item is already there, and then I could easily look at the data here and make a decision, okay, whether I want to do an approval or I want to reject it. So based on my decision, it will go to the next level of approval if it is configured, or you can also reject and then say, please do a rework, right, and then submit it again. So as a next step, of course, the workflow goes to the next level of approver if it is configured appropriately. And if I have assigned myself as an approver, because it's my development system, I'm just configuring myself as the approver. On the other hand, you can also see in the show log what's really happening behind the scene. You can see I started the workflow, who completed the workflow. Okay, it is creating the next set of tasks, and I, as an approver, it is again back to me with the comments what I have included. So all these capabilities are coming out of the box to you, right? Including the inbox, the standard requisition UI, plus the process flexibility cockpit, also the related integration content, etc. Plus, I think one more interesting aspect I want to show. Again, we are talking in terms of purchase requisition. We also provide a standard content around Ariba. How do you get a transparency into Ariba P2O operations? I just want to show you a view of it. We don't have the time to do a deep dive, but you can see in general around procurement as an LOB area, we are able to provide you quite lots of content around that, so that from a platform perspective, you are not starting everything from scratch, but you are really building on top of the standard content what we are providing to you, which is very specific to certain LOB applications or certain line of business areas actually. So you can see now we talked about the procurement approval workflows, but think about being an Ariba customer. Of course, I have my approvals there. Okay, how can I get transparency to my Ariba procurement operations? So you can see a similar process visibility dashboard with all my line items currently under approval, and also you can see the requisition currently happening. It's created on a monthly basis, my orders based on my suppliers, all my requisitions with a different status like composing, submitted, denied, or order, or ordering, and also the time taken, for example, from the PO creation time. Once you submit your order until PO creation, what's the average time taken? So each of this capability you see here, you could deep dive into individual instances like the previous case, and you are able to then go to the individual cases and then navigate further and see, okay, when this request has created, what are the phases it has undergone. Like you can see now, it has created, it's directly under a certain approval step, and which goes further, the different phases until order confirmation or shipping notification. Of course, you also have a process path view here. You can see now, this is sent for approval. There is, looks like there is some reworks happened after some hours of time, and then it is sent back here. So this is the reason why the delay has happened. So you really get the complete transparency into why there is a delay, because it indicates, oh, the requisition is at the risk, but why this risk happened, you can see, of course, there are some, kind of a rework is happening here, and it is also impacting the performance of the process. So having said that, I just want to show you yet another thing, and I want to hand over back to Stephan, and think about from a developer perspective, how can I model these workflows? How can I deploy these workflows? And what is the standard offering from SAP? So most of you might be already knowing, we have a BPMN based design time environment integrated with our business application studio in business technology platform, where you as a developer or a consultant, you are able to drag and drop various different BPMN artifacts, which we provide through our design time environment, which include the gateways, the tasks, the different type of events, where you drag and drop these activities. You do simple configurations by calling services or APIs exposed by different services, whether it is in business technology platform, in a third-party system, or even in an on-premise system, including all the different LOB applications. So together with, you also need to appropriately send notifications to the respective task owners. You could also assign the different users dynamically as a group or a users, configure due dates, or you could also assign the corresponding user interface based on our workflow forms, or you could also use SAP UI5 as a preferred UI technology to get much more flexibility. And once you do such configurations, you could also configure escalations, so that as and when the task is not completed after X amount of days or after the due date, you could also notify the respective people who are responsible for that task. So you can see now it's a pretty easy way of modeling net new workflows, and you could configure these different steps, and finally you can deploy these workflows into your business technology platform account. Having said that, I would like to now hand over back to Stephan, and please continue the session. All right, Stephan, back to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Venu. So there's was not one nice comment in the chat. Please take a moment and breath, Venu. So,
all right.
I mean, we are all excited about Venu and myself about the offering what we are showing to you today about workflow management itself. And of course, we would like to ensure that you get all the new details and features. Before we come to a Q&A session, I've seen there are some very interesting, good questions in the Q&A session already. Let me just also show you what our customers have already done. And these are just a few highlights. As you know, the slides will be shared with you later on, and there is also more details around this. What is fascinating with workflow management, and now let me just check. I think I'm not sharing. Now I'm sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, perfect. So what is fascinating with workflow management or business process management itself, and this is probably also the case why Venu and myself are working now for several years in this area, we have so different customer stories from different industries, from different LOBs. And I mean, the use cases are often quite different, and also the requirements, but I think the goal at the end is the same, to really enable them to digitize their workflows, to come to a better level of process automation, and just to pick a few of them here now. So one quite famous example, I would say, we have used this also in certain areas, is the capital expenditure approval, short CapEx. And of course, this started also our thought process regarding providing these live process content packages to you, to our customers, also started with one of these examples, actually at Delivery Hero, where they have had their capital expenditure approval. So each and every time when they were doing a new investment, this has been done via email conversation, via maintaining Excel sheets, and so on and so forth. It was quite cumbersome, also long lasting. And at the end, they also missed certain opportunities. What was then a really interesting result? So before, approximately, they have had on average 20 days for these approvals, and this could be shortened down to 2 days. Danone also used an implementation for CapEx, but of course, also with the aim to digitalize this process, but they also included their sustainability goals in there. So this was a kind of a different flavor, if you will, of the CapEx scenario, and also quite interesting and also quite remarkable what have been achieved there at Danone. Completely different use case, and also a completely different part of the world, Taronga Conservation Society in Australia. So they are on the one hand side managing zoos, but also taking care for wildlife projects, taking care for the animals there. And probably you think, okay, such kind of standard processes like leave request approvals or purchasing, what we have just seen, shouldn't this be already digitized and automatically done in all of the companies, in all organizations? Probably you think so, but the reality, it's not. A lot of companies sometimes start really as a first step to transfer this former paper-based processes into digitized workflows. And this was more or less also the same here for Taronga. So they have created a new app for their employees, which they call Stacks, Staff Experience App, and also on one hand side, make them mobile first, so to speak, but also included access here to central activities, and also created, for example, leave request approvals now with the help of workflow management, and really could brought the time taken from before several days. You remember one guy is somewhere out in the landscape taking care of animals, and then he need to request for vacation. Of course, this takes some time until it will then go to the headquarters of Taronga, where then the approval will happen, and then also maintenance in the system. This has now been automated, and they have reduced the time now from several days now down to 1.5 minutes until the approval can be done. There are a few other use cases in different areas, as I said before, automotive, also pharmaceutical, utilities, agriculture providers, and so on and so forth. So please feel free, be invited to also take a closer look, probably also after the session. So now the question, what is special, or what is making the difference with cloud platform workflow, with SAP Workflow Management? On the one hand side, I mean, it's a complete service offering, including capabilities to digitize workflows, extend, automate business processes, manage any kind of decisions with the rules capability, but also gain end-to-end process visibility within one environment, as you have also seen in this nice demo by Venu. On the other hand, very important, and we will really push here the pedal, if you will, also through the reminder of this year, the predefined live process content, which we are already providing via the SAP API Business Hub. This really is a kind of a Kickstarter for each and every project. Also, please have a look there. Take a look. You can also try them out. So there is also a trial environment available, and there are also some sample process content packages which you can use just to experience what it means to you, and probably then also to your business users. Of course, we are providing integration into SAP and non-SAP systems. We are also supporting hybrid workflow implementation. So sometimes we also see that, of course, customers are still running systems on premise. Of course, therefore, we also need to provide a kind of an cross-system workflow solution, which workflow management is, of course. And this we are also supporting. Another important point, and I think this was also one of the questions in the chat, is it possible to also connect with digital bots, which are built within intelligent robotic process automation? Clear answer, yes, we are supporting this. Actually, we have also, there are several use cases. Also, customers are building several use cases where, for example, such a workflow, as you have just seen, such a purchasing, acquisition, approval workflow will be triggered by a bot, or where, for example, also some kind of data, which is probably coming via an Excel sheet, is then be transferred from via with a bot into the dedicated form, which would then would use in a workflow to do all the approvals and so on. And vice versa, of course, it's also possible to call a bot out of the workflow. So there are different of these use cases available, and also we see an increasing interest also at customer side to use this combination also there. Of course, both of them can also be used separately. And finally, last but not least, so Venu has also showed you the capabilities, what can be included as a content source, if you will, for the process visibility dashboard, besides the workflow service, workflows. This could be SAP business workflows, but this could also be, for example, Qualtrics surveys. So really providing not only the operational data to the business user, but also some kind of information regarding sentiment analysis, regarding survey results, and also bringing the experience data to the same environment. So finally, what are the key benefits? What can you do with workflow management? What will you achieve? On the one hand side, do more with less. You can really free up your employees from this paper-based processes, from this really annoying task, and really have a defined workflow, an automated workflow where everyone knows what's going on, where you can also do some tracking and tracement at the end, and then, of course, also ensuring compliance. And finally, I think the most important point, really providing you the flexibility that you can adapt all the processes, what you have, to your needs, that you can create net new processes, that you can also extend already existing processes running in your business applications, and then, of course, be able to support new business model innovations to fix broken processes, and at the end, finally, also get to become, within the organization, more resilient in general. So, as I said before, already in the beginning, so we are really proud to be topic of the month this in March in the SAP community. Please feel free to visit our community topic page, SAP Workflow Management. join the discussion there, follow the tag, ask questions, get in touch with us, with our experts there. There's really a bunch of people out there in the wider SAP community who are interested in workflow, who have great knowledge and also are eager to share this with you. We have also published several blogs regarding how to start, for example, with workflow management, what is really the advantage while using live process content packages. Explained there also some further examples, give some outlook what's coming next and also what has been delivered during the course of the last few weeks, so also that you are updated here. And then also discussing what benefits actual our customers have gained while using workflow management. And in addition to that, also our senior management and actually also our executive members from the board are providing blogs in this area, because workflow is an important topic for SAP, for you as our customers. We know this, and we would like to support you there in the best possible way. So some links in addition to that, where you can find further information. There are several tutorials out there. Also a booster is there, which is really nice. So just with a few clicks, you can set up your environment either in the trial landscape or in your enterprise account even. So that's available for you. Then there are tutorials, how to get started, how to create your first workflow, business rules or process visibility, how to consume the live process content packages, how to create them on their own, our missions available. We also have still our recordings up and running from TechEd last year. If you would like to get more details into specific topics, also in integration, for example, with conversational AI or with Qualtrics, as I've mentioned before. And of course, also our hands-on sessions are also still available. Having said this, we are now at the end of the presentation and are looking forward now to your questions. And first and foremost, thanks a lot for joining us here today.
Thank you, Stephan. Thank you, Venu. Now you can breathe a little bit, both of you, but I have also seen that Venu was very, very busy in answering all the questions in the Q&A.
Okay.
So thanks very much for submitting those questions here. And let us just try to cover some of them, which are still open or where Venu was trying to write something, but just to give the audience an idea of which question have been mentioned here. So for example, what can we expect in BTP, SAP Workflow Management after Signavio acquisition? Okay, this is more a strategic question. Have you an answer to that already?
Yes. So, I mean, with the acquisition of Signavio, we are enriching our portfolio, I would say, especially in the area of analyzing business processes, of designing, simulating business processes. And of course, there is still some work to be done. So the acquisition is in the final stages, but we are really looking forward to the colleagues who are coming to us and also to the product and knowledge they are bringing to us. And I think this will even foster our offering in the area of process automation.
Thank you. In the beginning, there was also a question in the chat, and maybe you have answered that question already during your presentation. So it's which role plays BRF, and in this discussion, can BRF and be combined with the workflow capabilities? Is this a question you can answer? Or you have answered
actually
already?
BRF plus, I believe, from the ECC perspective, I'm audible, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a rules management in S4 or in ECC, and from a workflow management perspective, we have the rules capability, and one important aspect of the rules capability in workflow management is it's provide a kind of an enterprise rules model, which enable you to author your rules in BTP. But you could deploy your rules even to your S4HANA system so that these rules are compiled and executed using the native rule engine, which is BRF plus in S4. So that means from being an S4 customer, you have a central rules repository you can manage in BTP. You can govern your rules in BTP, but you have the possibility to deploy your rules either to BTP or to your S4HANA system. Yeah, I actually one question by mistake I clicked on, answer live. So I just need to answer that. I don't have any possibility to know answer. So the question is like a dynamic agent assignment. Is this possible? Coded logic to determine agent. Of course, some of our content enable you to determine the agents through external logic, like you have a function module in your ECC system, and you want to say, okay, the cost center owner approval or the approval steps or the different approvers needs to be determined using an external logic, which I have implemented in my ECC system. You can configure this at an approval step level so that once this step is executed, it connects to the function module, which you have configured through an integration. And then it retrieves back the set of approvers, and then the respective tasks are then provided to the users.
All right, perfect. And there's also another question. Can the SAP Cloud Workflow Service send workflow tasks from BTP Cloud Foundry environment to on-premise? My inbox in ABAP Launchpad. So, whoa, you have to read it on your own then.
Okay, so I think I understood the reasoning behind it, where you need to have one inbox where you need to use the inbox in the gateway front end. And this is something which we have actually published as a blog for our Neo environment, but unfortunately so far we haven't done this for Cloud Foundry. But of course, this technically this might be working, but so far we haven't officially done this. That due to the fact that we also now coming up with our task center, which is a native cloud application, enable you to connect to different LOB applications, not only S4, but also like a SuccessFactors or Ariba, so that the business users get all their tasks in one inbox in business technology platform. Migration tool available for traditional ECC to workflows in BTP. There is no migration tool as such because, as you know, there are different these are two different technologies. The business workflow, which is evolved many years before and use completely a different engine, different modeling paradigm. And our BTP workflow, it's use kind of a BPMN models, and it use a completely different engine. So you will not be able to do any migration, but of course you have an integration possibility where you can extend your business workflows using the business technology platform workflow.
Perfect. Thank you very much both. We are at the end of the time. So thanks again for having been part of the presenters of this call today, and also to the audience. Thanks very much for joining. Keep on posting your questions in Q&A in the SAP community. Check out the topic page, and also check out the contributions for topic of the month this month in March, and hope to see you soon in one of the next community calls. Thank you both. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.